Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German pastor, theologian, and anti-Nazi dissident, remains one of the most important voices of the 20th century. He was executed in 1945 for his role in resisting Hitler's dictatorship, but his writings outlived him, shaping theology, ethics, and philosophy for generations. Among his many works, one idea stands out not only for its depth, but also for its chilling relevance: his theory of stupidity. Unlike Oist critiques that target malice, cruelty, or hatred, Bonhoeffer proposed something far more disturbing. He suggested that stupidity, not wickedness, is the greatest danger to humanity. Evil, he argued, can be confronted, exposed, and resisted. But stupidity is more insidious because it is not merely a lack of intelligence. It is a moral and social disease that allows evil to flourish unchallenged. This essay explores Bonhoeffer's terrifying theory of stupidity, why it remains so unsettling, and how its implications reach beyond his own time into our modern world. Bonhoeffer wrote about stupidity while imprisoned by the Nazis in 1943. Surrounded by propaganda, blind obedience, and the passive compliance of ordinary Germans, he asked himself, how could an entire nation fall under the spell of a tyrant? His answer was striking. It was not primarily because of cruelty or hatred, but because ordinary people had surrendered their ability to think critically. Stupidity, in his view, was not the absence of intellect, but the refusal to use it. Many intelligent men and women became complicit in Nazi crimes because they abandoned independent judgment, preferring the safety of conformity. In this sense, stupidity is not an individual weakness, but a collective surrender of reason. He distinguished stupidity from ignorance. Ignorance is simply not knowing. Stupidity, however, is active. It is the willful rejection of reflection and moral responsibility. Bonhoeffer noted that intelligent people could behave stupidly when caught in the grip of ideology or mass psychology. Once stupidity takes root, facts, reason, and even moral appeals become useless. Facts that contradict one's prejudgment simply need not be believed, he wrote. The stupid person becomes critical of them, and when they are irrefutable, they are pushed aside as inconsequential. This, he argued, made stupidity more dangerous than malice. An evil person knows they are doing wrong. A stupid person is blind to the wrong, even while participating in it. Bonhoeffer warned that stupidity tends to grow in times of social upheaval, when people seek simple answers and strong leaders. Under such conditions, many willingly hand over their autonomy of thought to authority figures, slogans, and collective passions. In Nazi Germany, this surrender allowed ordinary people to participate in horrific crimes while believing themselves righteous. Soldiers, bureaucrats, and even neighbors engaged in cruelty, not because they were inherently evil, but because they accepted the ready-made truths handed to them. This insight is what makes Bonhoeffer's theory so terrifying. Stupidity is not a defect of a few individuals, but a contagious social condition. This raises an even darker conclusion. If stupidity is not intellectual weakness, but moral surrender, then education alone cannot cure it. One cannot simply argue a stupid person into reason, for they are not operating in the realm of reason. Instead, Bonhoeffer argued that liberation from stupidity is not a purely intellectual task, but a moral and spiritual one. Only an act of inner freedom, a willingness to take responsibility and think for oneself, can break the spell. In his Christian perspective, he saw this as an act of grace, a kind of awakening of conscience. But even outside theology, the warning is clear. Societies that encourage blind conformity will inevitably breed stupidity on a massive scale, enabling tyranny and violence. His words resonate today as powerfully as when he first wrote them. In the 21st century, where mass media, social networks, and populist movements often reward emotion over reason, Bonhoeffer's diagnosis feels prophetic. Stupidity is no longer confined to illiterate peasants of the past. It can infect the educated, the powerful, and the technologically advanced. When slogans replace arguments, when propaganda drowns out truth, and when people prefer to follow crowds rather than question them, stupidity triumphs. And in this triumph, evil finds its willing accomplice. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of Bonhoeffer's theory is its hopelessness. If stupidity cannot be fought with reason, how can it be overcome? He admitted that this was a grim paradox. Rational debate, facts, and even evidence failed to penetrate the wall of collective foolishness. He believed that only by restoring inner freedom, through courage, conscience, and sometimes faith, can individuals escape it. This places enormous weight on personal responsibility. Every person must decide whether to think critically or to surrender their mind to the herd. Those who refuse to choose risk becoming pawns of destructive systems. Looking back, we see how accurate Bonhoeffer's theory was. The Holocaust was not carried out solely by hateful fanatics, but by clerks, officers, and workers who obeyed orders without thought. The Soviet gulags, the Rwandan genocide, and many other atrocities in history share the same chilling pattern. Ordinary people, stripped of independent thought, became instruments of horror. The lesson is clear. When stupidity prevails, evil needs little effort to rule. Today we live in an age of unprecedented information, yet stupidity still flourishes. Social media allows misinformation to spread faster than truth. Political polarization often rewards blind loyalty over critical reflection. Conspiracy theories replace inquiry, and demagogues thrive on simplistic answers. In this context, Bonhoeffer's warning echoes louder than ever. Stupidity is not defeated by intelligence alone, but by moral courage. To resist it, we must cultivate habits of questioning, listening, and thinking beyond the safety of conformity. The terrifying brilliance of Bonhoeffer's theory lies in its humility. He never mocked the stupid, nor did he portray himself as immune. He knew that any of us could become stupid under pressure, fear, or comfort. Stupidity is not about IQ, but about surrendering our conscience. That makes the theory even more frightening. It implicates us all. The question is not whether others are stupid, but whether we will resist the temptation to become so ourselves. Yet Bonhoeffer's reflections also contain a spark of hope. He believed that even though stupidity is widespread, it is not irreversible. The moment an individual chooses to reclaim responsibility, to resist blind obedience, and to embrace truth over comfort, stupidity begins to lose its grip. History shows us examples of such courage. Individuals who refused to conform, who risked their lives to protect others, and who broke the silence when silence was easier. These acts remind us that stupidity may be strong, but freedom of thought, once awakened, is stronger. In conclusion, Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity is a haunting reminder of the fragility of human reason. Evil may always exist, but it only triumphs when stupidity clears the way. If history teaches us anything, it is that the gravest threat to humanity may not come from the wicked few, but from the unthinking many. To hear this theory is to confront a truth we were never meant to ignore, that stupidity is not only terrifying but deadly. The challenge for us today is whether we will awaken our freedom to think, or whether we will once again surrender it to forces that thrive in our blindness. The choice is ours, but the stakes, then as now, are nothing less than the survival of human dignity. Bonhoeffer's insight becomes even more urgent when we consider the rise of technology in the modern age. We live in a world where artificial intelligence, digital surveillance, and algorithm-driven media shape the way people think and behave. Paradoxically, the more advanced our tools become, the more vulnerable we are to collective stupidity. Instead of freeing us, technology often amplifies herd thinking. Social media platforms reward outrage, repetition, and blind loyalty, drowning out critical voices. Algorithms do not ask whether something is true or false. They ask only whether it will be clicked. In such a climate, stupidity spreads faster than truth ever could. If Bonhoeffer could see today's world, he might argue that the same danger he observed under tyranny now exists in freedom as well. We no longer need a dictator to impose propaganda. We willingly consume it ourselves, trading reflection for entertainment, depth for speed, and wisdom for convenience. This is perhaps the most terrifying part of his theory. Stupidity is self-reinforcing. The more we indulge it, the more it dominates us. The responsibility, then, is personal and collective. We cannot wait for leaders or institutions to rescue us from stupidity. Each of us must cultivate the courage to think independently, to resist blind conformity, and to seek truth even when it is inconvenient. Only in this daily struggle can we honor Bonhoeffer's legacy and prevent history from repeating its most tragic mistakes. Bonhoeffer's theory ultimately transcends the specific horrors of his time. It is not only a critique of Nazi Germany, nor merely a warning about propaganda or political conformity. It is a mirror held up to human nature itself. Stupidity, as he described it, will always remain a threat because it preys on our deepest desires for comfort, belonging, and certainty. In every generation, the challenge is the same. Will we choose to think, or will we allow others to think for us? His words are unsettling because they strip away illusions. They remind us that history's darkest chapters are never fully behind us. They wait silently for our complacency.